Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for episode 4 of On the Virtual Track, and I get to the pleasure of speaking to one Mr. Scar Pope. I'm James Pope, I'm going to be your host, of course, and we'll have a chat with Scar all the way through his racing career up until where he is now. So let's bring him in. Scar, welcome in, bud.
Hey, mate, how you doing?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Good. Thanks for
Sitting
having
there
me on.
chilling in your chair.
Yeah. Decided to do it in the racing chair. Just put a couple of flags behind me to make me look special, but you know.
You didn't have to on my part, mate. Honestly, you know what I mean? It's fine. You didn't have to do it. You know what I mean? But on that one, listen, dude. I think it's very interesting when you meet people for the first time. You know, we've spoken little bits in between doing the RF2 and stuff like that, but this is kind of the first thing that we're going to get in depth into. And I'm
Yeah, the
interested
voice
to
is
know.
familiar, but the face isn't.
No, exactly. That's the thing. You always hear it, and then when you sent me your photo, as well, which completely blew my mind because it was like a Ozzy Osbourne, I'm going to go and eat a bat photo, and anybody that can't see it, I'll share my screen, and I can give you an idea of what we're talking about here.
That's a Rob Zombie film, by the way.
There you go. That was the photo that you'll see on the thumbnail when this goes live on YouTube. Okay, you know Ozzy Osbourne bat eating Sharon esque there in that. That's gonna be what you're gonna see. When was that taken?
That was probably 2009, not long after that movie came out, because I got the poster at the film, the theater.
Yeah.
So yeah. A good 15
Wow.
years ago. I'm a little bit fatter now. That's about the only difference.
But
Still
I
dye
think
the hair black because it's naturally brown, but I dye it black because it looks better.
is that the rocky sort of rock version of you? Is it?
Well, I've always been into metal, and I was in a band in high school and through my early 20s. So, but that sort of split off into two different sorts of entertainment as well, because we did a couple of shows for Backyard Wrestling. So we had a lot of interaction with them, and they were very into the ICP rap stuff, the Clown Posse.
Yeah.
And so there was that sort of interaction between those two music worlds, and I did a lot of recording stuff. That's why I'm into the sound for SDS now, because I did a lot of producing for rap artists and pop artists and things that I wasn't interested in, but you know, you build up a portfolio.
Yeah, of course. Is that though? Rap and pop, but it's very hard with a music genre, because you know I like Frank Sinatra, certain stuff of his, but then again, I like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Nirvana, you know, and then in the middle you've got your little bits of your rap in the middle as well, and it's a very hard thing to determine to people because they're like, I only like house music, and I'm like, yeah, but dude, there's so much more out there.
That?
I don't even know. It just goes boom, 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 boom.
It's like
boom,
EDM.
boom.
I'm like, okay, electronic dance music. Is there anything a little bit more to that? But you know.
No, I don't think there is. I think bands are the way to go, but I'm not a pop band genre kind of individual who will sit back and go, I really like, I don't even know. I can't even name any pop bands. That's how bad I am right about now. You know what I mean?
I'm the same. I'm very much stuck in the mid-90s and early 2000s myself. I
Yeah,
do enjoy the good old 80s stuff like Van Halen, Ozzy Osbourne, and all of that. But yeah, no.
I can see from the Ozzy Osbourne, mate.
Yeah, just as long as I don't go stuttering around the place, it'll be fine.
Yeah, all of a sudden he's going like, James, I've got a party trick. Here's a bat.
Oh, I know. Yeah, you don't want to know about my party tricks, man, because I was around during the Jackass days. So the backyard wrestling sort of progressed into that crap with the BMX bikes and Jackass, and I was just like, all right, yeah, you guys are too drunk for me. I'm going to go over here and play video games.
I agree.
And back then, that would have been more V8 Supercar Driver 2 and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I actually started out on the very first PlayStation Formula 1. That was my actual game. And it took me 3 months to realize Murray Walker was in it. Because I used to play at home with the sound off with my music on. Metallica, Korn, Offspring. That was going instead of the sounds of the cars. One holiday period when I thought, yeah, I'll crank up the car sounds as well. I was like, what the hell, commentary? But yeah, that's
Uh,
where my journey started on the before the DualShock.
yeah. And now you have me doing commentary for you. You know what I mean? What more can you ask for? I don't even know. But how did you erupt into, like, most people we've talked to obviously so far end up in iRacing. You're very RF2 dominant scenario. So how did
Been
you go
all over
from
the shop, to
RF?
be honest. Like all over the shop. Like I had the Formula One games to start with, the V8 Supercar, the Tonka games. They were all
Yep.
awesome. I didn't do NASCAR or PC until 2009 when I did R Factor 1. Then I got into GTR 2 and all of that, and the VEC, the Virtual Endurance Championship with Jimmy
Yeah.
Allison. Got into that. So yeah, that was up until about 2014. And then my back got bad, so I needed to get a proper rig in order to do it. And I was doing it actually off a couch. So a couch with a dining table in front of it. And it was a decent setup for comfort until the bit of wood started sticking into the back and it just couldn't be done. I took a couple of years off, and in that meantime, everything sort of changed for me. Like the ACC crowd came about, and for
Yep.
me, that's sort of a good and a bad thing because it made it very popular, but it also brought about BOP conversations. Because before that, historic racing was all about the cars. Like you drove a Delara Formula One car from 1991, it was a shitbox.
Yeah.
You know, you were slow. You had to do the best you could. Wait for a rain race to get some points. You know,
Yep.
all of that kind of stuff. You know, I, I loved that. That was my thing. That was what R Factor 1 was awesome for, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I even recommended it to anyone, because I had Formula One mates going, oh, I wish they'd do a Formula One game through the ages. I'm like, wait, R Factor, dude? It's like something from every era.
Yeah.
And yeah, but that sort of 2010 to 2015. That was my really awesome sim period. That was the golden era for me.
Yeah.
Since then, it's sort of everything's sort of broken. You know? Nothing works properly. And then you got iRacing doing hypercars that are LMP1s and all sorts of other crazy stuff over the years, you know? So
Yeah.
I've given that a go, but each time it's like, is it worth it? Am I having fun? Because I'm not one of those ultra realism types, but I'm also not one of those, oh, it's fun, it's just a car, I'm going fast types. I like the cars to be realistic, and I
Yeah.
like to be able to be challenged by them and be rewarded by the end of the race, you know?
Yeah. Of course. But how did you end up in RF2? How did you end up modding and sounds
Well,
and
I
stuff
was
like
modding
that?
for R Factor 1, man. Like, I was around with Sim HQ Motorsports back in the day. Doug Atkinson, John Ewan, who you know from um, SGS and
CMS. Yeah.
CMS, and his son Troy, Don Fryman as well, the track guy there. We're all at Sim HQ before PMF. So we're running around there doing our Factor 1 stuff. One of my first things was a V8 Supercar mod for where I was doing different tires for the different tracks and BOPing the Nissan Mercedes era stuff before it was actually happening. So
Mm.
it'd been announced. FBR wasn't doing it, but we did a season because I was screwing around with the physics and doing tires, doing different car inertias and what is it? Center of gravity time, gravity, the height version, not the back and forth. You know, all that stuff. So I was doing that back then, and we got into R Factor 2 with the Pescarola Judd. It was one of the first mods on that. We did a 24-hour mod when there was like 4 people driving or something like that. But we had the other cars from ISI back then. I think we also had like an Aston Martin GT that we developed. And then we looked into the LMP ones, and then that's when AC came about. And Darren Blythe was another guy that was there too, big time track modder. He made the Barbagallo track, and the original version of the Nordschleife that we ran last year in the 64s for BMF2.
Yeah.
We brought that over to RFAC 2 first, and then that work's being carried on by other people.
I think that's the thing. People don't realize quite what goes into modding. I think you get the car and you're like, woo, I got the car. But you don't realize what goes in the background of it.
And 9 times out of 10, it's like, this one little thing's wrong.
No. Dude, they used to sort of go, shut up.
Oh, yeah, I know that thing's wrong, but come on, it's been 16 months.
Yeah. The car is beautiful and everything else, but you're just missing the number plate down in the bottom left-hand corner. You just, shut up, you damn fool.
It's usually like there's like a dial just like not turned the right way or something.
Oh, mate, I think that the people have to appreciate what goes into it. I think this is the thing for me. And you know, we were obviously with CMS and we see their 64 mods, we see their 85 mods, we see their 2024, 2025 mods, LMP2s going in ours and all this sort of stuff. And you sit there and you just admire the wonder that has been produced from them. You know what I mean? Because if you gave it to me, I'd draw you a little square box and say, oh, look, a Ferrari F1 car, because that's about the limitations that I think I've got. But how did you then decide that that was for you? Why didn't you jump over to the iRacing or the ACC and stuff like that, like the crowd was?
Well, ACC never really gelled with me. Like, the whole class and everything, like GT3s, man, it is not interesting to me. Like, the Bathurst 12 hours, like, I remember the Moslers and the Vipers. I got no idea what's going on. I've watched a couple with the Van Gisbergen and the McLaren, and I've just been like, okay, cool. I'm more interested in the other cars. There's something about the way, like, it was the same when Michael Schumacher was dominating F1 with his traction control car. He never won a championship without traction control. So it's one of those things where it's just like, the car looks too planted, the drivers don't look challenged, and the racing itself, because there's no mistakes, or very little mistakes, it's not that interesting. So I get the manufacturer love angle from it. Like, a lot of people love a Lambo, Ferrari, Porsche, but me, I've always seen them drop out of my favorite sports. Like, I was a big Mika Hakkinen fan back when Senna died. So I was like, all right, I'll move on to Mika. And then he was always blowing up with his Porsche and Peugeots and everything else.
Yep.
And Porsche tried with F1, but then left. And yeah, I remember the amount of times manufacturers have gone, yeah, we're going to come in, like Toyota, Honda, and then just nick off, like, just when they're doing good.
Audi's going to be the same.
Yeah. They've already started. They haven't even gotten to the point of being Audi F1 team, and they've gone, oh, yeah, we're backing out.
Yeah, that's the thing. They didn't even get there. You know what I mean? And there's been so many other teams over the time that's just come and gone and blink of an eye they're finished. And that's the thing. I think F1 is, I find it very difficult to follow. Don't get me wrong. I was not out of bed at 4 a.m. watching last weekend's race. I waited till the highlights come on and then waited for the highlights to finish, because then I could fast forward for all the annoying talking and watched it later on. I didn't watch the Grand Prix. I think it was till like 5 o'clock in the evening that night, because I was just like, man, I'm not getting out of bed at 4 for that.
Yeah,
Mind you, it was a bit of a chaotic race.
I didn't have to get out of bed, and I just didn't watch it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I watch more NASCAR and stuff like that than I do F1.
I try with NASCAR. I love oval. Like, I've done full seasons of the NASCAR with the 32 tracks, and you're like, how do they, with 32 races, they do the same tracks a couple of times, like Daytona. And Talladega is almost identical. But each oval has its own interesting little bits. But DRS and plate racing are very similar to me. Like, that constant overtaking, and you're like, is it more luck, or is it skill causing the overtake? Whereas 90s F1, 80s F1, like 83 was when I was born, but I caught on to F1 like age of 4, basically. I was watching
Yeah.
early Senna Prost.
Yep.
So the Suzuka
That's
crash
when
is
I
one of
was.
my big memories because that was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah,
Just
that was
favorite.
when kind of I really got into it. I think it was I got woken up by my dad at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and we watched the Grand Prix, the Australian Grand Prix, and that was kind of the first sort of insight into it. That must have been 85, 86, mind you.
The
That puts me
massive
round
blowout.
about 7 or 8, I think it was. So that was the first foray into motor racing. But I think nowadays, when you hear them and they've got 28 million buttons on their steering wheel and or mode XK71321145, you're just like, you're not even driving a car, bro. Like when
Yeah,
the pit lane can control the engine, full well you're not really doing a lot. You're pressing the pedal doing that. That's about it. And I think that needs to all go. I think it needs to be stripped back, as you say, to the 80s, with Senna moaning that he can't get gears and all of this on his hands and all that. That's the days that I think was the best racing.
the fuel save racing's awesome. Like the closest thing we get to it now is the hypercars and Formula E. And the hypercars are very sensitive and complex things, and then Formula E's have got four-wheel drive for half a lap sometimes, or 4 minutes.
Formula E, I think, come out with a flurry, and it was like, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden I watched it, and I was just kind of like, this ain't for me. I can't handle this. When they're racing around London through a stadium, I
That
might as
track
well
is
just
ridiculous.
I might as well just go up to my local radio control club and watch them drive around a dirt track. You know what I mean? Because it's about as more fun than watching them go in and out of London. And it was just ridiculous. And I haven't watched it since, to be blatantly honest. I think there needs to be some big improvements to even remotely get me remotely interested in that as well. I've started now, obviously, drag racing as well. My son's taking part in his junior drag bike season this season. And that's another complicated sport to try and understand at the same time, because that's
And then
just not,
done.
yep, down there, 1/8 of a mile, bang, 10 seconds, finished. Right, in the pits, mate, that's it, well done, you won. You know what I mean? It's a
Rebuild the
different,
engine, completely scratch for the next run.
yeah, on to the next one, we're done now. You know what I mean? But I think that's
Yeah,
something as well. But I think motor racing in general has just got too, how can I put it?
gimmicky.
Yeah, too electronically minded and not controlled by the driver. I think they need to cut the buttons back on the F1 steering wheel and put it back to the 90s touring car of the Alfa Romeo and the Renault Megane going full bore, smashing into each other with the Mondeo in the middle.
I love that era. The
It was the
90s,
Alpha
like,
155, bro. Like they,
even with that Audi Quattro in there, just going, oh yeah, there's rain. Oh, whatever.
yeah.
It was awesome.
It just made me laugh because when the Alpha 155 come in, they were like, it's too quick. Add ballast. It's still too quick. Add ballast. It particularly had half a beach in the back of his boot, and he was still winning. And it was
Yep.
just like, oh my God, what are you trying to do to the poor guy? The guy, you can see them loading it up with a dump truck in the end, just tipping the sand in to try and stop him. But that's racing, I think, and that's the thing on that. And if we was to sit back and go, where if you where was your main influence from? Where would you sit back and go, that was what that moment that I knew I wanted to drive?
Ooh, wanting to drive thing. Oh, I think Senna's 88 pole lap at Monaco. Just
Right.
seeing that visually, because they raved about that on Wild World of Sports down here, which was like a Sunday morning recap show where I actually got to see the Super Tours in Britain. Like, it's the only place to see BTCC, like, highlight shows and that. So we got the Australian version, which was good enough at its own term, but not enough good. You didn't have the Volvos properly. We had like secondhand Volvos, basically. So, but yeah, it, it was that pole at like age 5, seeing that repetitively, and people going, "This was nuts," and just watching the edge of the track getting closer every corner, and just going, "Oh, that's fun. That is fun. How do I capture that?"
Hmm.
And I'd never had the money. I did some karting. I could get that level, but
Yeah.
I never got further, and it was always a bit of like, well, all right, I need to get a job. I got into mechanics, and then into accounting after my background, but yeah, numbers, and that's why I got into physics and the sim racing thing because it's just numbers, easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I tried to do the mechanic route just to get into the industry, but that didn't really pan out. Very not well paid in the early years of the apprenticeship either. So I ended up
Hmm.
in a service station to make more money.
Dude, I agree. I think this is one of the things that um, people don't understand. And this is why I think, as well, to be honest, that so many people don't do the jobs they love because the jobs they love are so piss poor paid that you can make more money working at McDonald's. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? This is the
Yep.
thing. And that's the situation for things as well, is the money doesn't really represent the job and the love for the job. Like,
Yeah.
I worked when I
Yeah.
was a kid. I was very much saying a kid 20 years ago, 22 years ago. I was very much playing golf and I loved golf. Like, used to play the odd tournament and stuff like that. And then I got a job at a golf club working on the greens and stuff like that. And you can, and I got free golf, which was a bonus, loved it. But the money was shocking. Like, you couldn't live for doing 40 hours a week. And in the end, you had to stop and I had to stop and do something else because of life. But I think this is the thing. Very rare few people do what they enjoy. They don't do what
Yeah.
they love because they just can't afford to.
Yeah. I had the three passions in my teens: the racing, the music, and wrestling. I tried all three, made no money in any of them.
Wrestling. I would have loved it. What was your wrestling name?
There was two. There was Thok, which was a cannibal who wore a mask, so you couldn't see my face. So that's why I had the two, because one was masked, and
Yeah.
he ended up being the commissioner of the league for a while. But he didn't speak any proper English. It was all just grunts, and I sort of inherited the character because the actual owner of the league came up with that one. But that was the basics of it. And then my other one was the Desecrator, which was basically a pain loving freak who you'd hit them and I'd just take the pain. And then I'd just be, right, your turn.
Yeah.
And
I go.
like, you know, we'd have light tubes and all sorts of street signs and, the thumbtacks, like, yeah, barbed wire as well.
It's really weird talking to you in compared to the others that we've had, like Gene and Chris and Al, because you're very much about as far away from the imagery of a sim racer that you could possibly ever imagine.
I'm
You
still a
know,
nerd.
yeah, but you are, but you've just got this persona of this mad loving, rock wrestling, thumbtack wearing, barbed wire for hair individual. And you just sort of sit there and you just blow this persona out of the window because it is true. Nerdies are iRacing, and you expect the guy at home in his mum's basement and, driving in his
That's the joke.
500 your 500 grand rig and all of this stuff everywhere and all that and his motion simulator and whatever else. But you're not like that. That makes me wonder how you became to where you are within SGS and CMS.
I mean, I am sitting in a rig that's like probably worth about $7,000 because it's got a motion simulator. But you know, um, well, it was a roller coaster ride because like 2015 was a bad year for me health-wise, and I ended up on a lot of painkillers because of the back. So painkillers equals anxiety. So I just withdrew from societies and social media. I still don't do anything but Discord. So like Facebook, all that shit, just got rid of it. Just drew back and tried to refocus because it's just really hard to rehab that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when your mind's not quite right and with it, you can't do anything with racing. Basically, you shouldn't even be on the track. But what 2020, 21, 22, I started getting back into online sim racing. Like instead of playing MotoGP and Formula One and all those sorts of games, like Formula One 2019, 2020, great games. Best AI I've played with ever. Like NASCAR 2003, I booted that up and given it going, oh, this ain't bad, but they got Max Verstappen in those games. No other game has Max Verstappen where you can go, all right, yeah, there's a lane up the inside. AI won't go for that. They've got Max Verstappen going up the damn inside on you.
It's like a full
And
send mentality, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Go for it.
it's like going up against a proper sim racer. Whereas other video games, like people keep going about AMS2 now. That's another big part of my story. I've loved AMS1. AMS1, gold standard game. Like it wasn't ultra hard, but finding time was. Like that was the key with AMS1. Like the cold tire phases and all of the R Factor 1 stuff was there. So it was fun. It was everything I wanted, but Brazilian content and what is it? Fictional content. So, the Formula rises and whatnot and all of that. And the other big part of my story with motorsports in general was Jacques Villeneuve and the end of the Mansell era in karts, and then Jacques Villeneuve going back to Formula One. Now, the whole traction control thing in 1994 and Senna turned me off Formula One for most of that year. And
Yeah.
then I tuned back in to see Schumacher crash into Damon Hill. He should have been disqualified for that. Anyway,
It was blatant.
97 was done right.
It was
But
blatant. It was a blatant smash into him.
it was, my car's dead. Oh, that guy's going up the inside. It's over. I've won.
Yep.
But that made me go, right, yeah, I've enjoyed Mansell going to IndyCar. I'm just going to watch that for 1995. And that's what I did. I caught the Hockenheim explosion with Josh Verstappen. I think that was in 95. So I can't remember much else from that actual Formula One year. I was fully into kart. But, and that is something we're trying to fix up a little bit at the moment because I'm also in a modding group called Immersion, and they focus mostly on AMS2 because of all the fictional stuff. And they've got kart Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, which is 95, 98, and 2000, which are all very good kart years. But the 1995 pack is something we've worked on pretty hard. We've got all the helmets and there's AI files and stuff because it's more focused on single player. But that's where this conversation actually started with this little rant that I'm going to go on in a minute about how single player is crap in most sim racing games. Because these
Agreed.
things will sit in the bloody tranny. Like they won't overtake each other until you get near them. Then they'll figure out how to get past. They'll feign a couple overtakes, but that's about it. Most of the time, it's along we go, no problems, and people love this. And I'm like, it's not simulating a race. They're meant
No.
to be like forcing you off the track and causing problems for each other. And if it's just circulating at different speeds, that's not a race. Like a car like the Life F1 car, like that really, really slow thing. You can simulate the AI to be that slow that it shouldn't be a problem for your Sennas, your Mansells to get past. But no, he'll just sit there going along Hockenheim going, okay, we could do an extra 200 kilometers 20 kilometers an hour, but no, this car's in front of us, we're fine. The overtaking zone's just up the road. But
I think
that Max Verstappen just send it. Doesn't happen in that either.
no, I
So
think it's really hard with single players because I played the F1s and stuff like that, and I get sort of probably half a way through a season, and I'm just like, I've had enough now. You know what I mean? It's boring. But then you go online with, especially with the modern ones, and you just get shunted around and pushed off here and pushed off there, and then you've got the most toxic community in the whole entire world ever. I've played some games that have got toxic communities, bro, and F1 and certain others have just the worst. But I think once you find a home within motorsport on stuff that you enjoy doing, I think that's the moment when you realize, actually, I like this because it's all
yeah,
about, and I've spoken to people like Gene and that as well, and Al Corey and that, and they found a home for their motorsport. They found a home for their sim racing. You know, Chris, who we spoke to last week, was trying to find where his home went, you know, and how where he fits in. You know, he's in the JBB Discord now and he drives our SR8s and he feels that he's at home because, you know, the help that he gets and stuff like that. And I think people can take this thing way too more seriously than it needs to be.
yeah.
Dude,
That's
you
sort of what I
know,
was getting at earlier. But I'm not the super serious type because it's not worth it. At the end of the day, it's a video game. Like,
what? Ooh, naughty boy.
we're
Video
not that
game.
much. Yeah,
Video
you can
game
call
is
it a
a
simulation if you
simulator.
want to. If you
No,
want
it's
to
a bit.
call it a simulator, sure, fine. But we're at 60% of what we should be. So wait until we're closer to 90, 100%, then you can get on your high
Dude,
horse.
I agree. That is one of the biggest things that was told to me once I started commentary was, don't call it a game. And now I run my own company and I'm just like, I don't care. It's a video game. Fuck
Yeah,
off. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And
Hey,
that's the thing.
way too many people take it as like it's a life or death situation. This is to me no different than like 5-year-old me playing with cars on the ground, like with my mates.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, you find a good community that at least has the same sort of goals as you. You may not agree on doing setups or practice laps that you have to do to get good at a track because some people are just naturally weird and can just rock up and race fast. And I don't get them. You know, they
Gene
don't
was
care
one of
what the
them, mate.
setup is. They'll figure it
Yeah.
out in 10 laps.
Gene was exactly that. He does fuck all practice and he turns up and he's quick in whatever car he's in. It
Yeah,
makes you
that's not me.
absolutely
No,
bloody
I hate
sick.
those people.
Yeah, I do as well. I said to him in the chat, mate, I said to him, you are literally probably the most hated person in sim
Yeah.
racing about now, dude, because literally people spend hours and they can't get quicker, you know, like, and that's the thing. Where do you see yourself going forward after this? Because, you know, we haven't really touched on you as a personal entity. We've touched on your racing and we've touched on your SGS and all of this sort of stuff. Where's Scar in his own kind of thing? And first of all, who named you Scar?
Oh, no. That was a choice I did by default a few years ago. My parents were actually cultists, so it was a religious name. The Pope, though, is actually my grandmother's last name. Now, the reason why I chose my grandmother's last name is because my father, who had a massive argument with his father before he left New Zealand, thought he'd actually killed his father in that moment and changed his last name to Taylor, which has got nothing to do with any of my family. So
Right.
when I turned 30, I just went, oh, that doesn't make any sense for me. I'd already gone for years as Pumbas and Cunt for like years. That was my name. That was my racing name until I went to VEC. Because it was actually something I took from the metal days of my teenage years. So, you know,
Yeah.
Marilyn Manson, Good, Bad, Pumba, Whereword. You know, that's what I did for my
Together.
guitaring and my vocal.
So, so what was your birth name? Like, what was you before Scar Pope?
Uh, Jeremiah Taylor is the bullshit name that I was born. And I went, That's not me. Pumbaa was something I was given when I was 11, and it stuck with me till now. But Scar was something I took after my back went because I kind of figured I'm not the happy-go-lucky person I was years ago. I'm
Yeah.
much more grouchier, and during summer I'm a real pain in the ass.
Which is what
But
you're in now, right? Because where are you at the moment? Because you're not obviously Western or anything like that. Where are you
I'm in
residing, should we
Adelaide,
say?
so Northern Adelaide.
So you're down in Oz, which is pretty much going through summer, are you? Or you
Yeah,
moved
it
on
was
now?
42 degrees. Yes, Sunday.
So
Yeah.
do you just wake up in a general fucking bad mood every day then? It's
Pretty
off.
much
Fuck
the
off.
first 3 hours of me being awake is like, oh, this bloody human's pissed me off. How do I deal with this in a way that actually makes sense without just being a bunch of swear words and me wanting to strangle someone? Yeah.
Dude, I get that. It's not even hot
But
over in the UK, bro. I literally still get it where I don't want to deal with you today. Like, piss off. Leave me alone. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And that's
yeah.
the thing. Where do you see, Scar Pope 5 years time? Where you're looking at? What you're looking to do?
That's an interesting question. It's one of the reasons why when I was asked to do the sounds for SGS, I jumped at the chance because I want to get to know more people in the modding circles again to find out other people's interests and what they want to do over the next 5 years. Because realistically, I do feel like all the developers have failed us. Like Marcel, Ian Bell, two of the criminals of sim racing, in my opinion. Marcel for
Really?
completely ruining R Factor 2 in 2017 and making that stupid tyre model decision, and the stupid UI decision that still affects us to this day. LMU's suffering because of that UI decision of a different engine still, and the last garage could be something, but it's at least he's admitted his mistake of merging two things on R Factor 2 and leaving a broken version of both, which is unfortunately the story of R Factor 2. They
Yeah.
fixed it, but broke it.
This
AI,
is very
everything.
much the thing. Very much the thing for me because even with RF2 on how unpredictable the fucking thing is, you never know if we never know as broadcasters whether or not we're going to get through the whole broadcast without this game crashing.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Without it break,
yeah.
I can't even get into the game unless I have my steering wheel rigged up to my computer. Like it has to be rigged up to my
That's
computer.
weird, man.
And
All these
dude,
weird things.
I can't help it. I don't know, play my RF2. When I don't have my steering wheel plugged in, it won't let me in the game. And
And
that's
that's
even
why
just to broadcast it.
you know that James Kirk meme of him going calm? The only time I've ever made a use of that gift was for myself.
Yeah.
Just because of what he's done to R Factor 2 to make it worse over the years. It's just everything's possible. Like, even with the JSON sound file stuff, there's broken elements of that because they merged it with the old SFX stuff, and it's just, and then that's been made even worse. So that's basically not firing half of the sounds that are in the file. So yeah, Amos 2 is not much better, if not worse, because it's on the Madness engine, which is R Factor 1 for Need for Speed Shift 2, and
Yep.
that's got a P2P style multiplayer. So
Yep.
randomly half the grid gets disconnected on you. Like,
Yep.
I know people shit on R Factor 2, but I spent 2 years trying to play that AMS 2 properly. And I keep going back to it. And every time the last time I did a kart race in it, 12 people rocked up, 2 people finished, 2 people crashed. The rest of the people had disconnects. The pole sitter was stuck on the setup screen and couldn't hit ready. And this is like, it's supposedly a fully released game.
Yeah.
LMU, that happens, okay, it's still in early access. They've rebuilt the thing after people broke it for many, many years. This fully released game, Ian Bell exists. It had a decade of idiots, monkeys throwing shit at it and it just exploding and everyone going, yay, cars. I don't know. That and ACC are the two things that bring me to back to what you're trying to ask me, and I've gone on a couple of rants now. The future. I want to develop some games. I want to head that direction. I want to, even if it's just like a simple one-man band doing things, because I'm seeing what AI is capable of. And
Yeah.
I'm seeing what the development processes that it can do and the testing that it can do for me that I
Mm-hmm.
just, would need a team of like 15 people 10 years ago. Now, quality assurance can be done on virtual machines 10 times over, and you just need a big, powerful CPU and a few of them, maybe, and go from there. And like within 2 years, I can see that being a very viable option, at least even on if it's the Unreal Engine, which is why I'm sort of always looking in on Rensport and going, why is the fix? Why are these setups still fixed? Why?
Mm.
Why?
I,
Like,
I think that's the thing.
like,
It's there's so many good. The problem is there's so many good engines out there. You know, the Unreal Engine and stuff like that is something that gets developed, and you can look at it and go down the route and do something with it. But what would you love to see in a racing game that you don't see now?
well, one of the things that really annoys me is career progressions. Like, Toka Touring Car. You had the race driver, both versions of that had massive career progression. And there were so many different cars you could run through, and just each time you went back to it, you could have a different career if you wanted to. It was a bit annoying in some of the challenges you had to do, and this and that kind of shit I wouldn't want to do. But
Mm.
a proper immersive career, like for me, I always think of a golden era of like, the old drivers used to drive for 40 years, right? You could go 65, 2005. That's the golden era. Yeah, drive all the cars of that era through the video game. Retire and when you go, these cars are too fast for me. I can't handle these LMP ones or GT ones or whatever year
GTPs
you
or
finally go, I've got to go
LMPHs.
back down and drive the slower GT2s or whatever it is by the time you get to that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing I think is sadly missing from single player and from multiplayer, because what LMU is trying to be is the tip of what I'm suggesting here. Like, and with what SGS is actually doing with R Factor 2, they're almost there. Like, I'd want every year in between filled. But they've got different eras. They've got 64s, the 85s,
Yeah.
98s. So, in time, they might have all the stuff and knowledge base you need from the physics point of view, at least. The
Yeah.
models probably have to redone for engines and whatnot. But then, with immersion, I've got this AI nutter, and he probably won't be offended by that at all, because he really loves single player. He's just all about it. He'll watch AI run around and enjoy it. I
Mm.
don't get these people; they exist. And it's good for me because I don't like tuning AI. That is the most annoying thing in sim racing from a modder's perspective. Like, I would rather sit there for 6 months and make a model of a tire.
Are
Or a
you?
model of like a little nut that just no one ever sees. I'd rather do that than deal with AI. But to
But
have
does
someone who
this?
loves that,
Yeah.
that's awesome. You
Is
know,
this going to put you into the world of NASCAR 25 then with their career model?
I like that, and I will be looking into that heavily because I like the idea of it. And I did really enjoy my time in R Factor 1 and even R Factor 2 doing NASCAR stuff. That's actually how I came across CMS, by the way. They did the
Yeah.
1972 NASCAR stuff. They were doing like Riverside and a bunch of ovals, and they did Martinsville as well. The only place I got a ticket.
Oh, love
I
that.
love Martinsville. Great
Martinsville's
track
an
to
awesome
drive.
track, bro.
Drive and
Amazing.
race. But here's the thing with NASCAR: I can't watch it. I can't watch the ovals. I can watch the road courses. The ovals, because of the competition yellows and a few other things that the drafting I was explaining before, which is very much like DRS and Formula One. I just can't stick with the whole season. So I'll watch the road courses. I watch Chicago, and I go, cool, they're good cars, but I, I need more out of the ovals. But driving the ovals, the
Mm.
strategy, that's one of the big things that drew me to racing in general. Right, the '80s formula of fuel saving racing, and that's why I do like Formula E, because it is a fuel saving, energy saving category.
I
And
was
they've
going
got
to
these
say,
peloton
fuel
races.
saving. Fuel saving. Where have they got that hidden?
There's a little bits of nitrous out the back.
Yeah, I was
The
going
new,
to say.
the new fan boost, which was next to DRS, the stupidest thing in racing. But
Oh, don't even go there, dude. I think this is where it puts so many people off.
yeah,
I can't grasp it. I think
it's
that
gone now. Thankfully, they've got this attack mode thing instead,
yeah, but it's
which
still not. I don't think going to bring me back to it. I still don't think I'm going to sit back and be like, oh yeah, let's go and watch Formula E. And I think the
you
problem
have
is
to have
this
been
is
into the concept from the get go. I reckon with Formula E, because I
yeah.
love that Audi R18, that LMP1, that diesel sound with that. All you heard was a hybrid most of the time. You heard a
Yeah,
little low hum, and then the hybrid, the whoosh, and
just a
that's
whoosh.
what drove me to FE. It was Formula 3 cars that had a whoosh. I was like, cool, this sounds
Yeah,
better than a four banger. Nice.
I
I'm
think
not,
some of them,
that's the thing with me. V8s and bigger. My favourite engine is a H16 BRM.
yeah.
That's my favourite engine. It's got low grumble, high scream. Sounds like a V12 and a V8 in one. Right.
But
But
then you must love the
V6
Porsche
turbos and
GT.
anything lower?
But the Porsche GT3 and iRacing, you get it to sixth gear and it screams at you. It's
It's
like
the sixer.
it's a fucking nightmare, to be honest.
There's a couple of sixes that are alright, but you put a turbo on and they sound like a Formula One car, which is like a leaf blower. So what do you want?
Well, yeah, I suppose I'm just fussy. I think that's the
Yeah,
thing. Growing up with
I'm fussy
that.
in my own right. Like the numbers in racing mean more to me than the actual brands and the sounds in a lot of ways. Like the Formula E's, they don't sound sexy. They look like boxes of shit, and they're trying to be space age. But Formula One hasn't looked good since the '90s. Like the occasional
Yeah,
newie car looks alright. The last really good open wheeler was the Champ Car '07. That was the nice, really nice open wheeler look. I
yeah.
think you're gonna have to look that one up because you can't remember that one.
No, I'm gonna. What I do want to look up is one of the concepts for me that I wish worked, but unfortunately,
The Delta Wing. I love the
no,
Delta Wing.
no, no. It didn't work. But
The
this,
Nissan?
no.
Oh, that's the one
Hey,
thing I am excited about Marcel's new project. That's one thing he's teasing with it. Six wheelers that work.
yeah, that I think would have been absolutely amazing, and it just
You know why that didn't work
didn't
though?
because there's more wheels than it needs.
No. It worked as a speed performance wise. The front
Mm,
tires just wore too fast because the whatever tire manufacturer it was couldn't make the tires bespoke because it was just one team using them and they were smaller than all the other tires. So
yeah,
they made these tires similar to the other tires, but there's a smaller contact patch on those four wheels. So they wore out faster and it caused horrendous understeer. So it was useless during the race.
I think that would have been absolutely amazing. But I
Yeah.
think
The other one
people's
that I love is the Alpha fan car, which won a race and then got banned. The
oh,
original ground effects, the Alpha fan car.
let me
That's
see if
that's another cool thing about Amos too. They have actually modelled that properly. So you get it's a blown diffuser effect as well with Jensen Button and all of that. Because it was
yeah,
ground effects back in the day, but it had a
is
big fan on the back of the car. So when
is that
you revved up
under the
the engine,
Brabham
yeah, the Brabham Alpha.
B246? That one?
It's got a big fan at the back.
Yeah,
Ran
it's got
one
a big
race.
fan. Yeah, there.
Yep. Big Alpha V12, I believe.
But I do wonder where they were going to go next. Now that's the thing. If you had free reign on Formula One, where would you put them back to?
That's an interesting question. They almost did it in 2022, but they left the wings on. Get rid of the wings. I know they're billboards, but get rid of the wings. FE's done
What
it in a weird and stupid way, but the ideas produce good racing
are
because
we
they can
looking at
follow.
Peugeot 9X8 wing then? Because that was a beautiful wing. I love the little
Yeah,
flat wing
the
9X8.
original, the
Yeah,
original.
yeah, the little one, not the one they've got now, because the one they've got
Yeah,
now is just rather annoying. But
yeah.
I
It's
think
just
the
like, well, why
original,
did you even do that first one? Why did you tease me with that?
yeah, I know, and then regulations were like, no, you can't have that. And then I just wonder, like, I'd love to see a 9X back in again, and the proper low 9X8 that dominated is so reliant on wind and stuff like that, to press it and it goes under and out and
Yeah,
that was the car I'd love to see. But I think,
that kind of
um,
design would be perfect for Grand Prix. Like
yeah,
just that instead of like it's sprint racing. You're going to clatter each other's wheels. You need a bit of protection from that.
mm,
Endurance racing, it was too much of a stiff, sprung. Would have broken a lot of people's backs. Lewis Hamilton wouldn't have been able to drive that at all.
no,
That,
no,
that's why F1 went a bit weird with its rules midway through the ground effects uh, um, reinstatement of ground effects. Anyway, reallowance, whatever. Um, Halfway through the year before Hungary, I think it was, Lewis
mm,
finally got his way, and they were mandated a bit higher, which allowed a little bit more spring because he was having back troubles throughout the first half of the year.
mm,
And it was like, all right, well, that sort of negated most of the ground effect, and it's going back to over the car, which is causing more DRS style racing, and those trains to go
yeah, that's
down.
the thing. We still get them now. um I've asked everybody
Yeah.
this question, so I suppose I better give you the same question. One car, one track, what would you pick?
Um. Yeah. This one I've done quite a few times in Amos too, and it's one of the reasons why I keep giving that title a damn chance. And who knows, in 3 years it might be good. The Gessenstrecke, which is the full north and south loop of the Nordschleife. So you've got the full Südschleife, you've got the full Nordschleife.
So the
Developer-based
Gemstrucker version.
content, so it looks awesome.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's like the Südschleife is a good like 7 kilometers extra to the Nordschleife,
yeah.
and it was rarely raced. But that, because I love Group C, and because I've done it, and it was a blast, I'm gonna have to say the Sauber C9. 100,
Okay.
not 100, 1,000 Newton meters of torque.
Right,
That
let's
thing,
show everybody at home what we are talking about, because I know there's probably a lot of people that don't know what we're on about.
I mean, every sim racer should know Nords. It's everyone's
They, they,
favorite track,
they,
but it's the one that no one shows up to.
they all know Nords, but where is...
That
This
would
is
be
my...
like 1960s before they destroyed the Schutzlife
There it is.
to go Gessenstrecke.
No, you need the combined, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Because
that's
that's
just the
just such...
Schutzlife.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
that's the
go.
combined circuit there. Yeah,
17.58 miles.
yep.
That would
Whole
be
lot of fun. You go
that would be
down.
the track.
Yeah, that is the track that I used to test everything on in Amos too. And when I get the fizz out of a car with that, because that's been the problem for me. The Seder tire model keeps changing, and they aren't getting what I like out of a tire at the moment. There's too much forgiving feel in it.
Yeah.
But when I do get the fizz out of the game, which is rarely with a car, usually with one of their old aeroless cars at the moment, like the Corvette C3, I think it is, like the 1970s model, big stonking
Yep.
V8, no brakes, shit tires, blast. Take that around there at the moment in that game. But yeah, when they had a good tire model in their Group Cs when they first released the Gessenstrecke, complete blast. Like the first bit's like a rally stage. The Stutschleif, you've got little bits of those old fence posts with the mesh fencing and all that type of stuff, how just off the side of the road, like a spa, the old spa was. They've got that in there as well. And that's a blast in its own right. But, you know, so you go past all these houses, go towards the town, go back up the hill, go through hedges, and then you're on the Nordschleife, and it's just more fun. It is.
Yeah,
It's
I,
it's the one track where I don't feel guilty for hot lapping.
yeah,
Is
I
the way
think
I
that's the
see it.
thing with Nords. I like Nords, and I know a lot of people that don't, and you know, some people won't even drive in series if Nord is on the track or whatever. And I'm sitting back thinking, you're a fool. Like
Yeah,
I love Nords. I think the track itself, the 154 corners, the 174 with a complete track on top, is absolutely amazing. I'm not a lover of the stadium section, so I would just hot lap Nords, all
yeah.
154 of it, because the
The
stadium
tourist
just does
version's
my head.
perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing for me. But a lot of people don't, and that's the problem. I think some people just sort of shelter away from enjoying racing. So as we've said previously earlier on in the show, you know, where they just sort of take it as, I'm going to do this. I've got to win. I need to get to the front from the back in the first corner on the first lap. And even though I've got 90 minutes, I'm still going to get there. You know, and you're like,
And if I didn't, the BOP's off.
yeah, and everything else bar his fault. You know what I mean? He crashed. It's somebody else's fault. Even though he's on his
Yeah.
own, solo spin, going into Galgenkoff. It's all on his own, round the fast right-hander. That's the thing for me. And I think a lot of people need to, one vital lesson here, guys, as well, at home, if you are watching or listening on Spotify, just enjoy it. You're really not going to change the fucking world by winning a race. Got to be honest. You know what I mean? So there we go, I think, as well. And
You're not going to wake up with a bigger dick in the morning either, so just enjoy it.
Well, that's one way of putting it. And on that bombshell, believe it or not, me and Scar have been talking for an hour already. So we're going to wrap it up on his bombshell because he's just finished it off with the perfect analogy of what's not going to happen.
Podcasting in general.
Yeah, what's not going to happen to you. So, guys, that's going to wrap it up for episode 4. You're definitely not going to wake up with a bigger dick in the morning if you win a race. Join us next week as we're going to have a chat with Jakub Molozowicki. If you are catching this early on Spotify, tune in tonight on the JPP YouTube channel as Chris Guy is with me. And you'll see Scar's lovely, beautiful rock metal face next Tuesday on the 25th of March. Don't forget, we've still got more to come, guys. In fact, I've got another 60 still left to do. So we'll get through them, but we're just getting through them one at a time. But for now, guys, that's going to wrap it up. As always, have a good one. And from Scar, pleasure, mate, having a chat with you. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute blast for the last hour. But for now, guys, we'll catch you later. Enjoy yourself.